We have all different price ranges, catering for all different collectors. I think she's absolutely breathtaking. This is my Peter. I didn't bring along his other siblings. Hello, my name is Mary Shortle and I am part of the wonderful family business here of the last 45 years. We are based in the beautiful historical city of York in England in the UK. And here is our amazing store. We're so privileged to be asked to be part of the virtual doll convention. I thought it'd be lovely to talk a little bit about the history of our store and also our growing passion and why we love dolls and teddies so much here in the UK too. As a very young child, my passion grew very, very strongly at a very early age. From the age of 8, I was taken on frequent trips to the auction houses of London like Sotheby's and Christie's, where they held the most amazing antique doll sales. This really led me into the wonderful world of doll collecting. Ever since that very early age, the passion has grown so strong, and now being a major collector myself of all things antique, vintage and interesting, I can take my passion through into my daily working environment here at our wonderful store. We are one and probably the longest established doll and teddy store in the UK. The early years of being here since 1977, when both my parents were antique dealers. This amazing store was filled with the most beautiful furniture, paintings and fine porcelain. And then came along the dolls, the antique dolls. The passion grew very quickly when my mother started to deal in the antique dolls. My mother Mary started dealing in the antique dolls, and all of a sudden we had this amazing doll store in front of us. Out with the furniture and in with the dolls and teddy bears. It was amazing. The interest in the dolls was so strong at that time. And then came along the wonderful artist dolls of the 80s. We also fell in love with many trips to Germany and finding the wonderful artists like Annette Himstedt. We decided to import those into the UK and pop them in our wonderful window displays. Not only the dolls of Annette Himstedt, but soon followed also the wonderful creations of Hildegard Gunsel, Regina Sandreuter, Elizabeth Pongratz, just to name a few. These were artists that had never been seen before in the UK. We're so proud to have been able to offer some of the most amazing artistry ever created. And still today, it's just the transition of the doll and the new customer base is changing all the time. So we love to move with the times too. Not only do we sell the teddy bears, which you can see behind us here, there are also many dolls in this store that are actually created in our own nursery, those being the Reborn baby. That is a passion that has become very strong here in the UK for about the last 10 years. We create probably 4,000 reborn babies a year in our nursery with an amazing team that support us and are so dedicated to our nursery, being able to offer so many different styles of reborn babies here also in our store. But it's not all about new dolls. Of course, we still sell the wonderful antique dolls here too. We have all different price ranges, catering for all different collectors, whether you're just starting out your new collection on a very small budget or wanting to invest in something a little bit greater. We're so proud that we can offer you here an amazing choice. It's very overwhelming when the collectors or even the children come into store. They don't know where to start, and I can't wait to share with you our store here in York. Where do we begin? Behind me here is the wonderful teddy section. Our store is split into 4 different sections. Here we have the teddy bears, then we have the antique doll section, the baby doll and doll section, and also some doll's house miniatures, clothing and accessories for your dolls too. We love to be able to offer all kinds of teddies here. Of course, the Charlie Bears are one of the biggest successes that Britain has created. These are now a worldwide phenomenon. Over 15 years of creating many different styles and some really new and exciting ideas being launched every single year. These are also collected now not only for pleasure and fun, but also for investment too. They hold back some of their creations, creating that chase for the special pieces to add to your collection. But of course, how can we forget? Steiff teddy bears will always be the most famous teddies in the world. And we also love to sell here not only the cozy range for the children, but also, of course, their beautiful mohair bears, and many of them still being manufactured in Germany. And if you're looking for that special collector's item, we love to find rare and retired white tag pieces too. It's not all about Steiff and Charlie Bears and many other manufactured teddies that we do here, but we love to source many different unique artists and one-of-a-kind pieces. We travel often to Europe and love to bring back many different creations like this one here. Traveling all different parts of Belgium, the Netherlands and Germany. Check out this, isn't it gorgeous? So we really have so many beautiful one-of-a-kind pieces, and that makes it even more special and unique for your collection. Here we are in the dolly department of our store, and here you can see so many different little faces peeking out. 80% of these are created by ourselves. We have all different ranges, starting with the little Spanish dolls, which are ideal for the children, and maybe even they can become a collector too. Now this one here is from our elite collection, and these are the top of our range of Reborn babies, created by some of the most talented artists for us here in store. Isn't this breathtaking? This is probably one of the most realistic Reborn babies you can see. We do also work a lot on commission pieces for TV, film and period dramas here. And with York being such a historical city, it was amazing too. They did so much filming just around the corner here with the beautiful cathedral and all the Tudor buildings. So we're always working on some great commission orders too. That really does also keep us very busy in our nursery. But here you can see we literally have something for everybody. Now, it's not all about babies. We also love to deal in retired dolls too. And somebody that I just find so fascinating is the retired Zweiganaza dolls. We're very fortunate if collections come off of mint dolls from the past, and these always are so fascinating to the collectors too, wanting to source maybe something that they missed out first time round. So we're really lucky that we can also still sell some of the most amazing artist dolls from the early 2000s. But isn't she great? She's just got such a character face. We really love also to introduce as many different dolls into our store here as possible. And a great passion of mine is actually the Barbie doll. And we love to bring in a lot of the collector's edition Barbies. I'll show you those in a moment. Now, when you're buying your dolls here, sometimes it's all about the play and the fun of styling and dressing your dolls as well. So we can also offer the most amazing selection of accessories, whether it be clothing or the dummies, the headwear, and just something really for your collection, whether it be for display or also to play. Let's move on now and check out some of our beautiful antique dolls in the antique doll room. Here we are in the antique room. So I've moved across from the teddies and the modern dolls into the antique room. This room we built on around 5 years ago, and we decided to give it a beautiful glass wall and a separate entrance, as we find that the collectors that love and are passionate about the antique dolls, they like to come in and just have a peruse. So here we are. We sell all types of dolls here and all different price ranges. We feel it's really important to nurture the new collector too. So here you can even buy an antique doll with just a small budget. Here I'm holding one of the British hard plastic dolls from the 1950s. She's an absolute treasure, and here she is in her original clothing too. Her walking mechanism is also still working. There are many collectors of the English dolls in the UK, But surprisingly, we are shipping a lot of this style of doll to the States and also Australia. So the fascination has become very strong again in collecting this style and type of doll. So here we have many bisque dolls from the German and the French manufacturers. A lot of people who love to start their collections just love the little sweet Armand Marseille dream baby. So here we have many different sizes, some with the open mouth and some with the closed mouth, and we think it's always great just to get that starting point for any collection. Myself, at the age of 8, I was actually bought a beautiful miniature Cameron Reinhardt doll in a paper egg, and this really set me off on the collecting trail. 10 years later, I actually went to purchase the shop that the doll had been bought for my Christmas 10 years previous. So the shop had very special memories, and at 18 I opened a fashion boutique there and soon became converted to a doll store by using some of the more modern contemporary dolls as part of my window display. And the rest really is history. I joined it all together and we became Mary Shortle under the same heading. So the passion of the dolls really came through, even though I actually started with a fashion store. But here we have some really wonderful pieces, and here we have some of the beautiful French dolls. We love the dolls from Jumeau, Francois Gaultier, and some of the other famous French manufacturers. But naturally, these are slightly larger investment for people who are more experienced at collecting and looking for that special piece for their collection. We love to always have at least 200 antique and vintage dolls in stock, so when the collectors come in, they won't be disappointed, especially if they have travelled from afar. We do have many international tourists that come here to York looking for the vintage and antique dolls too. So we never want to disappoint and always make sure that we have a really wonderful selection to offer. It really is hard parting with them sometimes, and working in here all week, I just become so attached to them. It's very hard not to take them home for my collection. I really have all types of dolls in my collection too, and sometimes when they're just looking at me, I think, oh my goodness, should this one really come home? So I have to be very disciplined and always make sure that we have some beauties to offer other collectors too. As that passionate collector of the last 40 years, I thought it would be lovely to show you some of my beautiful pieces. Here I've brought along a handful of some of my collection. The interest of the German dolls grew at a very early age, from my mother buying me that beautiful small Cameron Reinhardt doll. These dolls were affordable at that time of collecting as well, so I was able to buy many pieces at the different shows we visited in London, Kensington Town Hall. I was so intrigued and really desperate to save my money and always add that new one to my collection. It's grown from there, and as any collector will know, you become so discerning with what you want to have in your collection, and you also learn that sometimes less is more. So now I love to feature on the Cameron Reinhardt character children like Carl, Elise, Hans, Gretchen and Peter and Marie, of course. But then the interest grew very strongly into the French fashion dolls. So now I love sourcing from Europe, many bought from Paris and Germany from some amazing dealers. And I love to source some beautiful original fashion pieces too. The desire grew very quickly and very strongly to add some beautiful French pieces to my collection. So here are just a handful of some of my favourites that I thought I'd love to share with you. Some of these I've bought more recently, and this beautiful girl here I fell in love with at the Neustadt Doll Fair. She was actually purchased from the owners of the Paris shop, and I just thought she was an exquisite piece. I love the fact of her size and this very striking look, also with this delicate lilac shading above her eyes. So this one is one of my very favourite pieces. and I was such a lucky girl as my mother actually purchased this one for my birthday. It's become a real tradition since the age of 8 that for every birthday and every Christmas I receive a doll. Many of them have been purchased as surprises, but now a little bit more discerning, we like to choose together to what I would love to add to my collection. So this one is very, very special to me. One of my very latest additions is this beautiful one. We visited the Neustadt Puppen Festival in May this year, and this beauty just had to come home. She is a Bruges 9, and I hadn't actually had one of these in my collection before. I just loved her. She was on the street market from one of the famous German dealers, and she was just standing there looking so beautiful. How could you resist to bring her home? This one here is a more recent one for the collection too, and she is a very, very sweet, demure, beautiful fashion doll. I love the fact that she's all original, and the clarity in her bisque as well, with all the original earrings and also the hair. It's such a rare find when you can find them in their original clothing, but she's a little bit more a teenage style, and that was certainly of interest to add to the collection. I think she's absolutely breathtaking. I love the colouring too. Many of the fashion dolls are extremely pale in their colouring, and I know that is very desired by collectors, but this one has certainly got the healthy glow, and I think that was one of the major appeals of her too. Here also I've got a beautiful almond-eyed Jumeau fashion. She is also very different in her appearance, and I think as a collector, for me, it's nice to have different examples when you're adding to the collection. It's very hard sometimes when you just love one style or manufacture of dolls, you're automatically drawn to purchasing that. But I think for me now, I'm trying to add many, many different looks to my collection. And here we have some very sweet little Jumeau dolls, and these are always so, so appealing. So if I see these for sale, then they just have to come home with me and add them to the collection. So being a collector of 40 years, it's not all about doll collecting. I love to collect all types of vintage accessories, and I have many various different collections. But the dolls for me will always hold a very special place in my heart. What's even more special is my daughter is 6 now, and she has the absolute love of the antique dolls. It's amazing when I take her to a show, she can actually pick out already the rarest dolls on the stand, and she really desires to own them. Well, slowly but surely we're building a very sweet collection for her too. And we felt it was nice if she collected something that my mother and myself didn't collect. So something a little bit different that she could probably source for herself at an older age. But for now, again, she is receiving a dolly every birthday and every Christmas from her grandmother. And that will certainly hold the fondest memories in the future. So this one I've brought along here is a little mignonette, and these are the ones that she is collecting. She loves small dolls, and she has the most amazing doll's house too. So this one is actually hers, but I just thought I'd bring it along and show you. She'd probably be a little bit shocked to think that I've taken it out of the cabinet without her knowing, but isn't that adorable? So again, for her future, we're looking for small pieces that are in great condition with a lot of originality. Here are a few more of my many treasured items. So not all about the dolls, but I've also brought along some of my tin plate collection too. And of course, not forgetting this beauty. This is my Cameron Reinhardt 101 Peter. Isn't he gorgeous? I've owned him around 25 years, and I'm so proud. I love his outfit, his haircut and everything about him. I'm very fascinated by the painted eye dolls, and they've also been a real passion of mine, collecting all the different Cameron Reinhardt characters. I just find them so soulful and really heartwarming. Isn't he just gorgeous? So this is my Peter. I didn't bring along his other siblings as I wanted just to showcase some different angles of my collection. So here again is another beautiful fashion doll of mine. This is a Francois Gaultier doll, and this was also purchased as a gift to myself, actually from my mother. Isn't it beautiful? All original as well. This one we've purchased in London, along here with another lovely closed mouth Jumeau. I absolutely love things in original packaging, and the egg is so significant in my collection, with my very first doll being purchased in that paper egg. This one also spotted at the latest German show, and I just felt it had to come home too. Have you seen the detail in this? Isn't that breathtaking? You can imagine this was purchased for a very, very special gift, a complete layette too, with this sweet doll that's never ever been played with. The originality is just second to none. So this one is really, really impressive and takes pride of place in the collection too. Isn't that just lovely? And the size of the egg too, and the fact it also has the brass feet. You can display it very easily. That is just a dream to own. Now with the tin plate collection, that also came along at a very early age. At the age of 14, I was fortunate enough to visit the New York Toy Show and become also a large part of buying for the store here along with my mother. We tripped across the most beautiful tin plate toy store called Second Childhood in Bleecker Street in Greenwich Village, New York, and from that day really there became the tin plate collection. The gentleman that owned the store was a former actor, and he was so charismatic and so enthusiastic in encouraging young collectors at the time like myself. So how could I resist? Every single year I saved as much money as I could, and the first stop before the toy show was to go and visit Grover. And just an amazing guy, and we spent a good few hours in his store just not knowing what to bring home. But the fascination came not only with the beautiful penny toys, because they're so small to house, and the detail of the pressed metal pieces I just find extremely interesting. So check out these beauties, aren't they lovely? They really are just so fascinating. And just the fact that they're still in great condition, even though they have been lightly played with. Initially, I tried to collect ones that were doll related. So I have here the baby in the high chair, which is probably a more common piece, but just really fascinating. Initially, when I set out on the tin plate collecting, it was more about finding pieces that were doll related. So here was one of the earlier pieces that I purchased for the collection, the baby in the high chair. This is probably one of the more common pieces on the market. I think I have quite a few of these actually, and the colours do vary, which is nice. So they're not all exactly the same, along with the sweet baby in the pram. Isn't that adorable? Of course, prams make just the perfect addition to any collection, especially if you have the dolls. They look so lovely along with the dolls pushing the prams, whether you display them in a cabinet or even just have them popped away. I have so many dolls now in my collection that sadly they're not all on display, and many of them have to be changed over on a regular basis so I can enjoy the full beauty of the dolls. I think with many collectors of 20, 30 or 40 years like myself, then it is just a total addiction, and every single penny that I earn does go on my collection. It really is just so addictive. So back to that beautiful experience of second childhood. Every single year we'd already spotted previously what we were going to save up for, and I thought it was more interesting to try and buy American brands or things that were a little bit more unusual and maybe not easily found in Europe or the UK. So here is the wonderful Merrymakers by the wonderful Louis Marks. Isn't that gorgeous? We were so fortunate to find this piece. I think it waited for us in his cabinet for about 3 years until we'd saved the money, and eventually we made the decision that it could come home with us. But the condition is just beautiful and it's in full working order. So this one really does take pride of place. We have managed to source all the other bands in the collection too, but I think the Mice and the Merrymakers will always hold that special piece of our heart. And this one, Popeye on the Tin Roof, another beautiful Marks piece. He was just such a cheeky character. He had to come and live with us here in the UK. So I was really excited to be asked to be part of this convention and just talk a little bit about everything that we're so passionate about here in the UK too. It's such a wonderful world. Doll, teddy, vintage toys, doll's house miniatures, whatever you collect. We're certainly a group of people who just love sourcing and the challenge of finding that next special thing for our collection. Thank you so much for watching all about our store here, and maybe one day you can find your way to the UK and beautiful historical York and visit us here. We would certainly love to make you very, very welcome.